That was, of course, Putting on the Ritz, played by Peter Skellern, who also happens to be our guest judge today. Let me hasten to protect his professional reputation. This piano is actually going to be used in today's problem, so it's neither in its first youth, nor, I think, is it in optimum tune.
No, it's not.
Now, almost everybody will know that Peter composes, that he sings, that he plays pop music. What everybody may not know is that he had a severely classical musical education. Peter, tell us something about yourself.
Well, I started playing when I was 9. I've actually been playing for 30 years now. I've worked out, which is an awful long time. And I went to the Guildhall School of Music and studied as a concert pianist, which is how I ended up. And I did a few months of recitals, and then joined a pop group because I wanted to learn about pop music. And now I combine all sorts of different kinds of music, hopefully quite well.
Well, we're glad to have us with you. Now, you probably notice after a concert that in each arm you have been using at least 50 muscles, and that each of these muscles will have been contracting once or twice for every second you've been playing. Well, rest your hands for a moment, and let me explain to the teams what we actually want you to do. Now, what we want you to construct is, in a sense, a synthetic Peter. It's a piece of machinery which you can wheel up to the grand piano, which will come to rest over the keyboard, or at least which can operate the keys, and which will play a recognizable piece of music that's recognizable by the judges and by the audience. You can power this piece of equipment either mechanically in some way of stored power, or perhaps more probably by some non-rhythmical movement. That means you can turn a handle or maybe pull a rope. You can't modulate the playing by the means in which you power. So is that understood? All right, go ahead and start tickling your ivories.
Right, you consider the problem keyboard. Also, you were going for C.
I think that's very well to be.
Yeah.
Most of the tunes start with that.
Now that you know what you're in for, do you feel grand, upright, or even highly strung?
Fallen down, I think.
Stag furniture, what do you make?
We make popular bedroom and dining room furniture through independent retailers.
And give me your names and what sort of things you do.
I'm James Blackburn. I'm works manager at our Hayden Road plant, where I'm responsible for all the piece parts for supply to our other factory.
Thank you.
I'm John Jarvis. I'm the production engineer for both of our factories in Nottingham.
And Richard Hartburn, plant engineer, responsible for the engineering of both of the Nottingham factories.
So woodwork itself has no terrors for you. You must use an awful lot of wood, and I suspect this machine was going to be made of wood. How about music? Do any of you play a musical instrument?
John plays.
A little.
What sort of instrument?
Mainly the trumpet, but I have an organ, but I don't play it so much.
So no stringed instrument?
No.
No.
Well, at least you know about music and notes and so on.
Yes.
Well, I'll leave you to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe have 2 octaves or 3 or 4 if we decide we're going to be that ambitious. Just see. Oh, the man.
Sorry to interrupt. Could I have your names, first of all?
Roger Bucknell.
Eddie Green.
And Tony Wilson.
You're obviously musicians, are you not?
Yes.
In what way?
Well, we all play instruments. We all play guitar, first of all, but we've come together as a team of friends who, over the years, have all worked 4 or 5 guitars, making high-quality musical instruments.
Is it going to help you at all, you think, in building this?
The guitar side, no. The music side, yes, and the practical experience of using these things. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I hope it goes well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right then. Nice complicated tune, fellas.
The problem is making it flexible enough. Not flexible enough. Lubrication, because this is going to go around fairly fast. This is the one place where you need good bearings.
Belt.
That rubber tube.
Yeah, go on.
But
let's have a look on that.
This is the one place where you need a good bearing, because it's going to go around fairly fast.
Yes, well, 50 to 1 is fast.
Well, I know, look, needles there.
Yeah. It'll spin quickly then, won't it?
Let me just have a look at your drawing. Early music shop. So can I buy one of these things from you?
We will as well.
That's something more seriously. I take it that you're all concerned with this, with the sale of musical instruments.
Yes, we are.
Early musical instruments. You must know something about how they work as well.
Sure.
Well, who are you?
I'm Jonathan Askey.
And what do you do?
I run the early music shop and the workshops. Yes.
My name's Anthony Calvert. I make anything from a spinet to viols, loops, harps, play my way to heaven.
Literally from first principles? From the
From basic bare raw materials, yes.
Well, that should give you really quite a good start.
I don't know.
And I'm Richard Wood, and I'm the early music shop Quango.
Single man Quango.
Right, yes, I administrate and do a bit of design.
Now, what you've drawn so far looks to me remarkably like a music box. In fact, it's a weight-driven music box. And I notice you've got a pulley in your hand,
yes.
which looks like coming in useful.
Yes, well, one thing which we think is important is that the whole action should be regulated with a given speed. And we're going to use the ancient musical box principle of having a fan.
Yes,
as being the
governor. Governor. And you're going to have pins on here, are you?
Pegs, yes.
Or pin, which will operate the keys directly, or?
Yes, the fulcrum's in the middle, and these pegs will have to be thought about.
Well, you mustn't give too much of your design away at this stage of the proceedings.
So, you're not going to hawk it around, are you?
I want a special for myself.
Okay. Which it occurred to me, are we on there? Yeah.
Peter, I shouldn't think they will actually have an animated hand, will they? Let's just try and get some of the technical specifications sorted out. To get a reasonably recognizable tune, have we got any idea how many notes they might actually have to play?
I think you'd need, at least as a melody, you'd need at least 6 or 7 or 8 notes to actually make a tune. If you, what they play, that's in one hand.
Yes.
If they're going to be ambitious and play 2 hands, they'll need chords of 3 notes, I would have thought, in the left hand.
Now, if they wanted to restrict the number of octaves, I mean, could they get away with 2 or 3 octaves in the middle of the piano somewhere?
Oh yes, I mean, yes, you can play in 1 octave, really, if you just wanted to do a tiny little, quiet little piece there.
But you wouldn't approve.
It wouldn't. It'd be the beginnings of a machine. It wouldn't be.
Well, look, let's try and divide the problem up into the components. Storing the program seems to me to be the major problem.
Yes.
So how do you see we might go about that?
Well, I did a couple of drawings, and I would work on the drum principle, and things like these canisters would make the ends of a drum. You'd have to put slats of wood between them, and you'd have pegs on the drum which would knock an arm, if that's the arm and that's the keyboard, on a pivot, which would send a rod, as this, for instance, bit of dialing, down onto the key. Probably put some cotton wool on the end.
You have to for the gentle touch.
Yes, to make it not to damage the piano.
Well, of course, you've got return springs under there, haven't you?
Yes, I mean, if you've sent the pivot down, you've got to bring it back, obviously, and you've got to use some springing. That, unfortunately, I think is a bit vicious.
But closed pegs, which seem to me to be at the premium, a closed peg seems to contain a good deal of the mechanism which one might require.
Yes, I think that would be sufficient to bring the arm back. You don't want a very strong spring, you just want to bring it back up again.
Now, as an alternative, I suppose, to the programming drums, we've got some rather strong paper here, and a really ambitious team could think in terms of making a pianola, with an unlimited length program.
I think they'd need about 4 or 5 weeks in a factory, with a computer as well, I should think, to actually work out where the notes go.
But I think that our teams probably aren't going to be quite as ambitious in terms of coordinating all the activities. Let's see how they're getting on.
Just have a piece of wood up here. But it runs along here. And that can come as near as you can. Stick it to that. Right. So it's really
Peter, when one sees the size of the engineering which is going on here, one begins to realize what a compact piece of mechanism you actually are.
That's right, the hand is far the simplest way of doing it.
Tell us about this rather imposing bit of oil drilling equipment.
Looks like a pogo stick.
The drum cylinder is going to carry the information to move the...
In the form of pegs?
In the form of pegs, yes. And the large pulley will turn a very small pulley, hopefully quickly, with a fan blade on it. So by altering the pitch of the fan, we can control the speed of this quite accurately.
But what's the ultimate source of energy for this?
The ultimate source of energy is a bucket of water.
On a piece of string.
So your descending bucket rope will go around here?
Round here to apply the force to the drum. And as that revolves, it'll spin the smaller pulley quickly with the fan on to regulate the speed.
And is your striking mechanism
here? It's under development.
Test bed.
A prototype.
So it's the beginning of their music, rather than saying piano or the speed. There'll be 2 gallons, 1 gallon.
pints of beer in it.
Actually, well, the sound too good, does it?
How are you getting on?
Well, we've got something that looks like something. I'm not quite sure what yet.
Doesn't look much like a drum or anything, is it?
No, well, we thought over lunchtime about the drum and then decided that it would give us a few problems. This is going to be a flat card that drops it down the front.
Yes.
So we've got the difficulty of controlling the rate of descent. That's the thing we haven't really sussed out, but there are ways we hope we can do it. The car will have segments on the front, or pins, or recesses, depending on how you look at it, which will move fingers, and the fingers themselves will actually lie on top of the keys.
Oh, I see, so they're not going to be pivoted or anything, they're just going to be...
Well, no, the pivoted fingers.
They will be?
Yeah. We're hoping to be able to control the length of the note as well. That's something we really wanted to do, rather than just a constant speed. Bop, 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 bop. It's a shame.
Yes. Well, I won't disturb you anymore.
Okay.
Carry on.
I'll give you a saw if you stay any longer.
Okay.
That's it.
Can I stop you a moment? I picked up your score, as it were, on my way around. Now, for somebody who's entirely unmusical like me, am I correct in thinking of it as a sort of rather clever graph, in which we have time along this axis and pitch, frequency, along this axis?
Certainly the pitch, but the timing, I think, particularly with my music here, is a little bit questionable.
But in general terms?
In general, yes.
Yes. So if I turn this around on its side, like that, I've really got a picture of the programming card which you're going to, make. So can you just tell me a little bit more about the card?
Well, we have decided that rather than work on perhaps the usual drum principle, it is easier for us to mark it out as a card. Yeah. And so we're going to attempt to move this vertically and operate the keys from pegs.
From pegs. So if this was a correct musical notation, you would have a peg wherever there's a note on here.
That's right, yes.
Well, it's very nice. It seems to me to be a very nice relationship between the way music is written.
So we hope to be able to see the music on our card when we finish.
Right. Now, this is so you store your program on there and you operate the keys. Now, how do you actually transfer this motion to the piano itself?
Well, I think this is the best way of explaining it, is that these are flexible keys so that we don't break the actual pegs.
So these your pegs come past and flick these.
Flick it,
yes.
And then the fulcrum here will act and then play the note down.
So if I can pretend that the peg come, if I'm a peg here, we do that and
it's come up the other way actually.
All right, it will go this way.
Yes.
So it will push it down onto the key.
Yes.
And depending on how long you keep it down, this will sustain the note.
Yes.
Then you lift it, you allow it to come back.
We allow it to drop away from that. That being partly flexible.
Yes. Fine. Thanks. Well, we've got a rather clever electric pianola in the studio. It's actually a piano corda because it's its modern equivalent. In a pianola, the information about which key to activate next is stored in terms of holes on a wide paper tape, in effect. Here, it's stored on a tape cassette. But this tape cassette doesn't actually store music, it stores a program. Let's just listen to it for a moment. It sounds, and in fact is, exactly like a computer program. Let's actually make this machine play something. And let's start it. Now let's look at the works underneath. Each key can be operated by one of these electromagnets. There are as many electromagnets as there are keys, and we can see the actual armatures going up and down. In the corner here, there are big brothers to these solenoids, which operate the pedals. Now, this isn't all this machine can do, but if you stop this tape, now Peter, teach us something new. I put a blank cassette in.
Right.
All yours.
Right. A further trick. If I press record, give myself a cue. Press stop and rewind. Stop. Press play. I can now play a duet. Thank you very much. I shall be passing amongst you with the hat. Thank you.
That seems okay. Looking okay so far, Eddie. We might have to alter the height.
Yeah, what have we got already?
Well, can you lower this down while I mark the centre of this? How fast you like?
Well, we can see the green team, Peter, operating what seems to be a slow-motion guillotine.
Yes, that's right. It does look a bit lethal.
It's in fact, what we can see them lowering is their, what we might call their program board. They're raising it now, onto which will be stuck little wedges. And it's those little wedges which will operate the actuators, which will actually press on the keys. Now, you felt earlier on, Peter, didn't you, that there might be a lack of attack in this?
Yes, I think, as far as I can gather, the blocks of wood are being lifted off at the front to then drop and be pulled down onto the key. And I think the amount of weight that's needed might be a problem.
Yes. Well, let me just draw the principle of the of the green key operating device. So if you think of this thing here as being the piano key, what they've done is, very diagrammatically, they have a finger resting on this, and the finger is pivoted, and the other end of the actuator comes to rest quite close to their program card. Now, on the program card, there's mounted a wedge, like that. Extend this a little bit. The card moves down or up. It doesn't actually matter much in principle. The wedge moving down in this direction lifts the key, and they've arranged for a spring. It's actually a piece of rubber tube, which is stretched by this, to then pull the key back. So I think your criticism is justified, because they're relying on how hard they hit the key, not on any forces generated by the wedge and the plate, but merely by how much energy is stored inside this rubber spring.
Yes.
Now, Peter, we're now looking at the yellow team's effort, which I think is the only one which is not driven by human muscle power.
Yes, it's a rather ingenious system of powering this.
Because they have a bucket which can be filled with different quantities of water, which acts like a clock weight and drives the whole of the machine. In fact, it might be worthwhile drawing this as well, because what they've got is a drum, and this drum has pegs in it, which are going to operate the keys. And the drum has a piece of rope wound around it, piece of rope here, which goes over a pulley up here, and then to the weight. The pulley is up here, so the descent of the bucket goes and drives the drum. They were concerned that this might vary in speed depending how many keys had to be operated at a time. So they incorporated the governor, very, very clever. So they put a much bigger pulley at one end of the drum here and had a small pulley down here and connected these two with a piece of rope or string or something like that. And then, this was going to make it very picturesque when it's actually operating, put a windmill on here. Big blades, not drawn in perspective here, in the hope that if the thing had a tendency to go too fast, then the wind resistance of these blades would slow down again. In fact, it's a thing called a fly in clockmaking circles to get chimes and so on to go at the right sort of speed. Let's have another look. What other features can you see if you're on this?
They've also, I think, given themselves a problem by playing some of the black notes. I'm not sure that that makes it harder.
So they have to reach further into
have different lengths of key and what have you.
I'm now nervous, but all together.
Okay. Just listen.
Yeah.
Peter, we're now looking at the red team, and we see the pegs going past the actuators. What's the relationship of those pegs to the way one would actually play the piano?
Well, of course, they're the wrong way around, because looking at it as you're working on it from here, you're looking as from inside the piano. You have to turn it round, of course, and hit the keyboard. And I presume they've all taken that into mind when they've been working on it.
Otherwise, there would be another interesting musical transformation which would take place. But I think just draw their key mechanism, because that is yet another variant of the three possible ways. Here again we have the piano key, and resting on it we have the pad, your equivalent to your finger, Peter, and it is pivoted. But rather cunningly, at the end of theirs, they have a very flexible section. It's in fact a piece of rubber tubing which has been stiffened internally in some way. So what happens is that the peg on the board, which we've just seen, moves in this direction here. It first bends the piece of rubber tubing and barges its way past it. And in doing so, it presses the key down and allows a note to be sounded, and then gets past and springs back. Now they're relying on the spring pressure inside the piano to return the key, because there is a force inside the piano.
Yes,
so they're relying entirely on what the piano makers have provided in returning the key to its original position again.
Yes, it should do that.
A hush has descended on the studio. All work is finished, and the machines are ready to be put through their paces. But before we start, let me explain how Peter and I are going to mark it. There will be up to 25 marks for somebody, and preferably a majority, actually recognizing which piece of music is going to be played. There'll be a further 30 marks for the quality of the rendition and the length of the tune. Then there will be 25 marks for the engineering design of the machine. And finally, there'll be 20 marks entirely due to the caprice of Peter and myself for any little features which we like on the machines. Now, audience, we expect you to listen very carefully, because it'll be partly you who will decide whether the tune is actually recognizable. The green machine has been installed. Its fingers are resting on the keys. I will sit in the audience to bathe in the pleasure of your rendition. You can now start in your own time. Right. Now, madam, did you recognize what this was?
I did, but I don't know what it's called. I'm sorry.
So you recognize it as being a piece of music?
I recognized a piece of music, yes.
Now, how about you, sir? Did you?
No, I'm afraid I didn't.
Could you put a name to it?
No, I couldn't. No name.
It sounded classical to me. Any?
Choose your joy of man's desiring.
I presume you recognised it, did you?
Well, that's what it's supposed to be, yeah.
That's how it started out. Yeah. Wonderful. Do you actually have a name for your musician?
Well, the best we can do
is a Barcalodian.
Barcalodian. Wonderful. I think...
Now, the yellow machine has to be fueled with water before the start. Water is now going in. It hasn't reached a critical mass yet, as it were. another gallon. And off she goes. Now, madam, I detected a certain repetitiveness about that. Any clue what it might have been?
No, I really can't think of anything at all.
Any volunteer? I'm here.
The basic tune was there, but the rhythm wasn't right.
Well, what do you think the tune was?
I can't distinguish it.
Composer, period.
Somebody just said it. Somebody said it. Be brave. Putting up that. That's right.
Putting on the Ritz.
Putting on the Ritz.
Yeah.
And what's the connection with that? With our guest judge?
Peter Skellern.
Yes.
Well, I can just. He plays it so well.
All right. Well done.
It was putting on the Ritz. It's unfortunately, I think it started a couple of notes in, so you didn't get the actual kick off.
Yes.
But
next time.
Very good. Do you actually have a name for this musician?
Oh yes, it's a Skellern.
For the last act. How do you like the concert so far?
It's gone very well. It's very varied. Very varied.
Yes, it's one broad-minded sort of arranger. That's right. Well, gentlemen of the red team, are you ready?
I hope they identify it better than the others.
All right. Well, in your own time. Well done. Now, members of the audience, those of you with a true musical soul, I'm sure would have recognized that instantly. What was it?
Haken Serenade. Johnny Haken Serenade.
Any other offers?
Camptown Racing.
No? No. I think we must conclude that this is a little known piece of music. Now, gentlemen, tell me what you thought you were playing.
Chicken. Lay a little egg for me.
Oh, how appropriate to the program. And what do you call your machine?
This is the staggerphone.
Right. Well, Peter, I think with this additional information, we should go along and attend to the serious business of the marketing.
Very good.
Now, we're going to award the marks in the order of performances, starting with the green team. Peter, in terms of recognition of the tune, it took a bit long, didn't it?
No, well, I thought it was very good. It was a very accurate piece of programming, I thought, for the Greens. I think they should get what we've allotted, the full marks for recognition of the tune.
So they get 25 for that?
They get 25 for that. I thought it was a slight cheat in a way, because all the notes in the tune are of the same length.
Mm-hmm.
It's either very clever or very slightly cheating, I think. There aren't any longer notes, which would have made it harder. So I say I should have 20. Yes, 20 for that.
Now, I looked in the engineering design, And I thought it was really a soundly made device, so I've awarded 15 for that. And then we had some sort of caprice marks in our gift.
Yes.
How would you rate them for that?
Well, I thought I enjoyed the painted fingernails on the inside. It gives it a human quality. So we've awarded 12 marks for the caprice.
Now this gives the green team a total of 72 marks. Well done. And now for the yellow team. Peter, recognition in the audience's part.
Well, yes, it was slightly marred by the fact that it missed off the first couple of notes, but I think with a bit of prompting people recognised that it was what it was supposed to be. I think they should get 20 for that.
And for the quality and length?
Well, the quality, I gave 10 marks. It wasn't particularly good, but they also get 5 extra, because it was a piece that could keep going round and round and round and round and round.
So strategy.
Yes, so they get 15 altogether for that.
Now, the engineering design, I thought was a shade better, because they were in fact the only machine which was mechanically driven. It was a true musical box of sorts, a bit on the large side, but a musical box nevertheless, which used gravity to drive it. So I've awarded them 18 for that. And on caprice marks, Peter?
Well, I like the look of this machine because of the sort of Professor Brainstorm-ness of it, and we've awarded 15 marks for that, for caprice.
Now this gives the yellow team a total of 68 marks. And now for the red team. Now there was a bit of a problem about recognition, wasn't there?
Yes, there wasn't any. I'm afraid we couldn't recognise the tune at all, so consequently
it has to be.
They get 0 for recognition.
Now, quality and length.
Tricky.
But do your best.
Well, they got 8 for that.
And engineering design, well, I think the engineering design was on the whole not bad, and I gave them 13. And for caprice, now we had to do some hard thinking for that, but I feel that as a strategy to pick a really unknown composer was really rather clever. And I also rather liked the way they all kept a totally straight face throughout this performance. So if I've awarded them 10 for that, giving the red team a total of 31 marks. And this means that 5 guitars, the green team, are the winners of this week's egg race. Well done. Well done. Well done. Thank you for the opportunity as well. All that remains now is for me to thank the teams for their quite magnificent performance and really solving a very difficult problem, to thank Peter Skellern for being such a magnificent and expert judge, and to say that having enjoyed this cultural delight, good night. Now, gentlemen, would you like to put your machine back up for a repeat performance?
Thank you.